everyone, this is Anirban here. I am here again with another episode of the email show. Today I have Awais Nabi. He is from my neighbor country, Pakistan, and he has been doing copywriting and email marketing for the last 7 years. Earlier he used to do only copywriting. Right now he has been doing email marketing as well. So welcome Awais to this podcast.
Thank you, Anupman. Should I kind of introduce myself now to the
Yes.
audience? Okay, perfect. So again, you know my name, Avas. I've been working in this field for the past 7 years, as Anupman said. I've been managing multiple nine-figure brands during my career, ranging from $50 million to up to like $500 million brands in general. My experience is very like if you look into my email journey, it started with a freelance copywriter, but again, I scaled myself of not being just a copywriter, but a retention marketer, a retention strategist, and then moving towards, I kind of not do copy anymore in general, but I kind of because strategy has been my evergreen focus. But yes, I used to work in the copy field for quite a long time in the past.
Awesome. Great to know about you. So what led you into email marketing?
This is something that I think you would be very interested to hear. Um, Online working remote, working online was never a goal for me because I used to always be corporate, corporate, corporate. So I've worked with a lot of like corporate, like, worked in a lot of corporate job in development sectors as well. Like I worked with United Nations for a year in their HR field. Then I was like, nah, it's kind of monotonous. I can't do it like from an HR perspective. Then I moved to Amazon Web Services, which was selling Amazon Web Services, AWS. It's Amazon's, the cloud services that they have. And then I used to sell them. That got me some sales experience. And then after 8, 10 months, it was good, but I was like, there's something else that I need to look for. Then I was like, okay, I was a finance major guy. So I was like, let's go into that finance field. So I work with one of the biggest petroleum company here in Pakistan as their treasury and corporate banking officer. I worked there for a year and a half and I was like, man, it's still the same. And the problem with me was whenever something's so defined, when the processes are there, I am like, I get bored because there are no new problems to solve. So then I was like, oh, this was after COVID, this was really booming, or even before COVID, it was a game of, you know, people are doing drop shipping, people are working on e-commerce brand, and I was like, okay, this has a lot of interest. So side by side, I started to working on some gigs there when it comes to that, like learning about copywriting, become a freelance copywriter, kind of worked along my job alongside that as well. And then I was like, there are a lot of other things in there, like when it comes to this e-com space. Previously, it always used to be like something where I would say it was all acquisition. The only thing that we knew was Facebook marketing and everything. And then I was like, okay, there is a field that's known as retention marketing where we can retain customers. And that's where things started to play. And then moving forward, as you know, then moved into email copy, then email account management. And then that's how I started my career when it comes to starting the space. But it was never a focus. If you ask even me, like 6 to 7 years ago, I would be like, this is not something that I would do, but now I love it to an extent where I'm like, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Have you ever tried Fiverr, Upwork, or any such platforms?
Yes, kind of, but the way I used to do is like approach my gigs was purely to LinkedIn most of the time, right? Because LinkedIn doesn't used to be that saturated previously, so it was easy to talk to people. And then also like I had good friends that used to give me gigs in general, like in the agency space, and that used to be like, hey, can you help us with this and that? So that kind of was the main focus. Fiverr, Upwork, yes, I've done like a little bit, but not to an extent where I'd say like I've cracked the code when it comes to that.
I heard about it. I read about it on Reddit, Quora, that people from Western countries they think Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Indian freelancers are actually very cheap. I mean, they think us in a cheap way, and they think like they are not that good, or they are. I mean, they just hire us just because we are cheap compared to the US pricing and all. And apart from that, they also complain that we are scammers. Like we don't deliver the project on time. We don't give much. I mean, whatever they expect, we don't match their expectations. So, what's your take on this?
Yeah, that's a really good thing, and that's something that go onto my mind all the time as well. I feel like yes, we are a cheaper alternative. It's not something that I would deny, especially because the cost of living here versus there is a lot different. I'll break it down into three pieces. First, I'll go to the last point, which is scammers, right? The problem with this industry is it's hard to guess if a person is a good person versus a bad person until and unless they actually execute stuff, right? And that's the goal. And it's like, there is a saying that I think probably you would know is that too is like one bad fish kind of, ruins the whole pond, right? So it's like even though, and since that's the first interaction, like for instance, if you're talking to me and then you're like, hey, Avest, do this for me, and I'm the only Pakistani you met, then if I don't end up delivering you that project, at the end of the day, you'll have a whole psychology based on that hey, all Pakistanis are like that, right? And that's not the case. But eventually, since the barrier to entry is so low at this point with AI, with different YouTube courses and stuff like that, I think that is one reason why people think of them as an expert and they aren't really experts. And then when they start executing, they're like, oh, we don't know it. And rather than being transparent with the client, they're more into the fact that hey, I don't be transparent so that he doesn't blocks my money, he gives me my money, and I'd be like, hey, I can't do it or stuff like that. So yes, there are a lot of pieces involved. On the cheaper alternative side, I think the way you present yourself is the ticket size is what you're gonna get. I run my own retention marketing agency now. I don't know if I mentioned this to the audience before, but I kind of manage my own retention marketing agency now, and I kind of charge them the same way a US person would charge. That's because of my expertise, right? So the moment you tend to be like to an extent where you can solve a good problem in the same way as the other like these first world countries might solve, I think you can expect to get paid exactly the same or like a little bit cheaper, not to an extent where you're being paid 10% of what a usual person would be paid.
So as you were saying that you were running an agency, so do you remember your first campaign?
Yeah, so it's something that I kind of think that I knew at that time. So whenever you're starting in this field, like whenever you're a beginner, you think you would know a lot, and that's something that I think that goes well with everybody. It's like you have done all the courses, I've done everything, and now I'm a perfect marketer. And there are a lot of other things that are involved in it. So I remember that when I kind of was working in a good a good role where I was executing stuff as well. There was a Memorial Day sale campaign. I was like, okay, I looked at the emails, I looked at the links, and I was like, that's all good, and I scheduled it. Turns out that I didn't know at that time is like I would be the one that's going to be owning creating the code in Shopify as well. So it had a discount code. I sent out the email, and turns out the discount code wasn't active. And the client flagged it to me, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna look into it. But at the end of the day, it's just like things like these is like when you're an expert, there are certain ways you gotta check these things rather than but just being aligned to your own channel, which is at that time it was like Klaviyo or any other platform that we're using in there. So yeah, that was kind of a mistake that I did. It didn't really fire back because we kind of noticed it after like 3 hours of sending. So we're like, okay, let's just get that wrapped up. But on that 3 hours, I was so panicked. I didn't know what to do and stuff like that. So again, things like that happen when you're starting off and kind of also teach you a lot.
So as you have said that you have worked with so many clients, multiple nine-figure brands and all. So how much have you made for your clients so far?
I recently, like, if you talk about a client that I onboarded with my own agency on March, we have added almost £500,000 to their attributed revenue. It was a very good client, and there were a lot of problems with their retention program. I mean, they never noticed. That's when I say it comes to experts. When you're an expert in the field, you know everything. Versus when you're not an expert, you think you know everything, but you're doing a lot of things wrong. So I remember like when I audited the account, I was like, yes, there are a lot of opportunities in the account. And they were like, we're maximizing it. We're making £1 million in £1.1 million in attributed revenue, like from Klaviyo. Their total revenue size is like £5 million a month. So I was like, okay, that really doesn't. Let me check out. Let me apply some things. I fixed some flow filters. I fixed some emails. I make them hyper personalized, and then they started with us on April 13th, and then they are still working with us. But I lastly checked like 5 days ago, May 1st to May 31st. It's like 60% above or like 50% above the last period. And we are now at £1.7 million or £1.8 million versus £1.1 million that we were doing. So again, that's something that we do. Otherwise, I've worked with brands that do $100 million a quarter, and then help them generate 10 to 12 million from coming from SMS, 6 to 7 million coming from like the email side of things. So, kind of help that. But this is something that I really remember on top of my head because it's just so recent.
So as you have been working with clients and all, so you have experienced a lot of things, right? Like sometimes you might fail, sometimes you win, and you add some like $10,000, $100,000 and all. So what are your biggest mistake? Like if you can jot down your five biggest mistake while doing email marketing for your clients.
Biggest mistakes. It's again a very good question. I would say it's not like mistakes in my opinion. It's rather not being an expert where you know what to check or like things like having checklists and everything. I didn't used to have them back then, and that's what caused it. So if I look into my early career, sometimes I wouldn't double check the links. That's one thing. Not looking at like constantly changing segmentation. I used to be under the opinion that segmentation, when you create once, you just kind of clone it out like in my early days. So that's like one mistake that I would say I've made in the past, not looking at deliverability from a very granular angle, rather just relying on Klaviyo's data or the tool data to track that. So these, I wouldn't say like these are the mistakes that I do, but it's like these are things that are overlooked when you're working with smaller scale brands that don't require attention. But when you start working with nine-figure brands that have dedicated director of retentions into their organization, then you kind of have a lot of to and fro communication, and then you learn a lot with that. So I think it's not, I wouldn't call them mistakes, but it's like not having a proper QA process to actually make sure that whatever we are executing is perfect, because at the end of the day there is no way for us to get something back from a customer's inbox, right? So it's not that we have the authority to do so. So what we can do is enhance our QA process and the upfront, so that our customers don't end up receiving the email version that's broken, that's nuanced, or whatever that case is.
So do you only serve to e-commerce or do you also work in influencers?
I all until now I've always worked into D2C e-commerce brands. The reason is because I feel like that's what I'm most passionate about. I have no problem working with SaaS, but it's like there, if it's SaaS with other info products, I feel like the main issue comes is like the ROI isn't visible upfront, right? It has to be a lot of, like, for instance, if it's a person that's doing info and I'm doing marketing, email marketing for them, like managing their newsletter and stuff, it's not like I can guarantee them something that after a set period of time they're gonna get X amount of people, right? Versus in e-commerce, I know that these are the things wrong. Like for instance, just giving you an example, let's just say I see an account that has no edit cart flow, right? And I'm like, okay, they don't have edit to cart flow, but they have a browse abandonment flow and they have a checkout abandonment flow. I know I can see, okay, 10,000 people are in checkout flow right now. It means that similar amount of people can also be a part of that added to cart flow. Then I can be like, okay, the checkout flow is generating, let's just say 25,000 pounds or dollars for you. Then I can assume safely that it's going to be plus minus $25,000 on the added to cart flow. Obviously, it depends upon the volume. I can see metrics. I can see the overlap, like how many people are actually abandon the cart versus abandon the checkout. Things like that can help me decide or make complete decisions on, okay, I can generate an extra $100,000 in monthly revenue, in annual revenue for you by doing XYZ thing. Does that make sense?
True, true, amazing. So as you're saying that regarding the failure and all, sometimes the failure doesn't depend on ourselves. The customers also are also equally responsible for it, because sometimes the offer is not good, the product is not good, the overall positioning is not good. Like they are mostly like you are only helping them or managing their email marketing part, but their offer part or their landing page part or overall their positioning part is something they manage or their team manage, something like that's the point where people actually go wrong, and then they make mistakes, and then they blame the email marketer or the retention marketer that we are not getting sales, the we are not hitting the MRR.
Yes. So you're asking like, how do I handle those concerns?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So it's a very good question. I come across this all the time, and what I would say, I used to come across that a lot of time. So recently, like in the past 6 7 months, starting when I kind of focused on my agency a lot. And to just give you more context here, I work with one of the biggest agencies in the US right now, Homestead Studio. I don't know if you know about them or if you have heard about them, but they're one of the biggest agencies when it comes to email marketing or retention marketing in general. And then I also had this site, was running this like my business side by side, just to make sure that I have my own clients as well. So in the last few months, what I've seen is like clients have this being a concern with the clients. Like, why is this not happening? Why are we not generating sales? And what I've started to do is like anytime a big sale is coming up, I kind of get on a call with the client first. I'm like, hey, tell me what are your goals? First, I get their goals up, and then I'm like, we're planning to do this on our site, on our email marketing site. I want the piece that we would be sending them to, be it a landing page, be it let's just say a website page, PDP, whatever the case is, they have to make those optimizations there as well to make sure that we have that. So I always recommend them on the CRO optimizations to make. And then if they don't follow it, if they don't end up following it, then we're not at fault because we told them upfront about it. But if they end up following them that and then they start making the experience cohesive with what we're doing on the emails, then it's a game changer for them. So it's a win-win for them and us as well. But at the end of the day, if they don't end up doing it, I remember one client that I used to work with, it was a celebrity-backed client. I told them to make those CR optimization. They didn't make it. And then they didn't, their emails did what? They had a 70,000, 80,000 engaged list, and they did what? $1,000 in revenue or $2,000 revenue. And I told them to make those CRO optimizations. Whenever we run a next sale, they run another sale, which was bad, which was like not as good as the previous sale they run, but it ended up generating $5,000 in revenue just because of those CRO optimizations. So that's how I do it. And also like I've kind of introduced in my services, like building up landing pages and stuff like that as well. So now we're also working on, owning the experience when it comes to that as well.
So let's talk about newsletters. Like the 2025 is the year of newsletter. There are so many people who are actually starting their own newsletter, or maybe they're thinking to start their own newsletter. So, what do you think? What makes a great newsletter, in your opinion?
I feel like if you're talking about personal newsletters, I think it's for both. If it's a personal newsletter, even if it's like for an e-com brand, kind of nurturing their customers, I feel like if a newsletter understands their customers, understands their demo, understands their pain points, understands what the person wants, and understands its competitors, right? So if you do all of this, like all five of the, if you know all five of this, which this competitor piece is the most important one, because you have to, it's like if it's a personal newsletter, it's Andriban, who also knows about email marketing. It's Avas, who also knows about email marketing. So if Vas is a good email marketer and Andriban is a good email marketer as well, how can Andriban, I wouldn't say steal is a nice word, but it's more like convince Vas's subscribers to buy from Andriban instead? Be it pricing, be it the quality of work, be it the processes, be it the offer itself. Anything that you might have is like, that is what I feel like is what makes a good newsletter. A lot of people build out a newsletter, but they don't even care like of what kind of demo they are. Like for instance, if there is a brand owner coming up, we know for sure that we are like, my ideal audience is, I like my ICP is brand owners in general. Now I can talk about, I can use words like LTVs, I can use words like AOVs, like stuff like that, but I can't say something like sunset segments. Like people don't use because sunset is a term that email marketing people know. For them, it should be somewhere around excluding unengaged people, or creating a flow that excludes those unengaged people. Stuff like that is like, people kind of think that they should talk like themselves. I rather think they should rather talk like the customer or the ICP itself. So I think that is what makes a good newsletter.
Amazing. So, as you have been doing this for so long, like 7 years is not a joke. So, you have been checking the trends, you have been following up with everything happening in this email world. So, what is one email trend you think is overrated?
That's a very good question. I think I would probably answer two of them here. One is in my particular domain, especially DTC attribution. You would see a lot of, and that's what I said, like barrier to entry is so low. Is like people kind of basing their success off attribution, like the percentage of attributed revenue, which I think is not a good way to do it, right? In my opinion, if a brand is doing 45 to 50%, just from Klaviyo, I never considered that as a success. The reason I don't consider that as a success is because we are just doing the lifting here and the brand is not doing anything on top of the funnel side of things, right? So I feel like, and that is where if you recall the example that I shared, I never talked about how I took their email marketing from 25% to 35%. I talked to you about the complete numbers where it was first 1.1 million and now it's like 1.7 million or 1.8 million or whatever it is right now, right? So that's like, I think, one of the most overrated trends, people kind of considering success from the attribution involved. The more the attribution, the less the brand is focusing on top of the funnel and relying on email marketing. And short term you might see the win, but long term you're going to see the list fatigue, people in subscribing and stuff like that. So that's number one thing. The other piece is open rates. I feel like people consider open rates as a winning metric. If you ask me, with 7 years experience, if I see somebody showcasing me 60% open rates, I know that there's something wrong. And there can be something wrong like Apple Privacy Opens. So for the audience, if they don't know what the Apple Privacy Opens are, it's basically there's an Apple filter that you enable on your phone. It's MPP, I think Mail Privacy Provider or something like that. Anytime you send an email to a person who owns an iPhone, and if it's enabled, a bot is first sent to check for malicious content, if it has it or not. And that sends, since it has a pixel attached to it, to Klaviyo, it seems like an open. But it's rather a bot open in general when it comes to that. So again, when I see somebody showcasing me 60-70% of the open rates, I'm like, okay, let me see if they're excluding Apple Privacy Opens or not, right? And it's very easy for us to do in Klaviyo. It's just, creating a condition, open an email where Apple Privacy Opens equals false or true, whatever we want to do that. But I think a lot of people see success there. I normally would rather look at the opposite, like click rate and then the CVRs in general, like how much people are converting in there. That's what success means. 60-70% of people are opening my email and they're not even converting. That means there's something wrong with the content. There's something wrong with the website, right? Even though if it's true, right? So open rate is a vanity metric, in my opinion. I would forever lean towards very cohesive or very concrete um, metrics such as click rates. And again, click rates also can be skewed. There are a lot of other things. I recently read a post that the click rates were for one brand that was seeing all the time was like probably 0.2, 0.3%. They kind of dropped from 1% to 0.0, 0.2, 0.3%, and they were really mad at it. They tried everything. And it started happening when Klaviyo introduced their bot clicking option. So there was another issue where there was bot clicks and everything. And then they're like, we enabled dedicated click tracking, and it solved the problem. But setting up a dedicated click tracking is a whole another story as well. So again, there are a lot of nuances when it comes to play, but if you're an expert, you know how to get away with it, or not get away with it, but how to get accurate data out of it by including some of the segments, and then we should be good.
Yeah. Thanks always for sharing your knowledge, because it's so valued. Like people who are checking, they need some time to digest whatever you have shared, because whatever we see online, most of the people are faking. Like they are just showing the dashboard of like downloading from Google and all. And very, very few people actually know the stuff happening inside, and they actually know what to do and what not to do. Like people can tell you, like you can download from ChatGPT, and you can ask some questions and ChatGPT can give you some very basic surface level answers. But the real thing happen when you actually handle and you fail a lot, you manage a lot of accounts, then you actually able to understand what's happening inside. So those people who are actually coming to email marketing as the newcomers, so what would you suggest to them?
I would probably suggest them something and also give them a piece of advice, right? So, my suggestion would be learn as much as you can. It's a ever changing field. It's not like you're going to know everything forever, but try to learn things from a technical standpoint. One thing that I did wrong that I wish I didn't in the start of my career, I would have been into a very different place right now if I did that, which was not looking at email marketing as email marketing, rather looking at it as retention marketing. And then when I understand retention marketing, I know that how to treat a person who's just entering, how to treat a person who is abandoning an event, or like, checkout card and anything, how to treat an event who is placing an order. And I'll just tell you a very cool strategy that I have in mind as well. Like when it comes to this, normally what people normally would do is like set up a flow with a placed order metric and say we would just treat them as, thank you for placing an order, blah 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 blah. I personally segment it down into two. So placed order pre-delivery, placed order post-delivery. Pre-delivery people build excitement. Post-delivery people make sure that they don't return the product. Make sure we cross-sell them, upsell them something there. So that's like my piece of suggestion is like things of when you start thinking from a retention perspective, then you can be very well versed into the system, and then you can start making decisions from a customer standpoint. So always think from a customer standpoint. Like what would, if I was a customer, I would do here. So that's my suggestion. Like try to do it this way. My advice is don't think of yourself as an expert. 7 years in the industry, worked with this many brands. Still, if a client tells me, sometimes the clients ask me something, I'm like, let me confirm if this is possible. And 90% of the time, it is possible. But it's still like, it's such a fast moving field. Like, I don't know, Anirban, if you'd be aware of, any audience would be aware of it, but Klaviyo used to be has a CDP product. It used to be very expensive. And it used to give that a lot of information to you as well. Now, what Klaviyo has done is they have given you things like marketing analytics, which is same as like 80% or 90% of what KDP used to offer at 4 times less the cost. But now, since it's a new feature, most people would know about it. Most people would know how to do the funnel analysis. Most people would know what a catalog insights is. So it's like there are new features rolling out, especially with AI. Don't hesitate to learn them, but never think of yourself as an expert. If you position yourself for a person that's wanting to learn, you would eventually end up in a good place. If I be transparent with you, guys in general as well, when I started my career into this, I think at this point, if I look at it now, I was one of the most low tier employees that can ever be there. And the only drive to learn, and I had like what clients, $40,000 make a month clients or $30,000 a month clients. They're not as big as that, right? And then because I was able to learn more, and then I wanted to learn more, my trajectory started from this to handling 9-figure brands like this. So it's all because of learning. I wouldn't say I'm the only one that can do it. I think everybody can do it. It's just a matter of them making sure that they have the drive or hunger to learn. Because if you learning is what motivates you, you're gonna love this job or love this field for the rest of your life. And I think that is what's also gonna end up making good money for you as well.
Awesome, awesome. So, always, we are done with the question and answers and all. So, if you have anything to offer to the audience, like if you're building any course, cohort, or any coaching program, you can tell to the audience.
Okay, right at this point, I am not thought about creating any for product. Again, I think I would can only sell something when I am truly focused onto it. So that's why I don't have it. But again, as I mentioned, I run a retention marketing agency. If anybody wants some piece of advice, you can add my LinkedIn below. They can always reach out to me there. Also, if there is a brand owner who's looking for some services in general, I can for Underbun, I can give you guys a free audit because it's coming from him. So I can give your audience a free audit if they want it, and then it's gonna be probably worth $2,000 to $2,500 worth of strategy that I would probably give away for free. And if they want to implement it themselves, they could probably go ahead as
Awesome.
well.
So, if you are watching this podcast, if you want any kind of help around email marketing, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. I will attach the link in the description. And thank you guys for coming today. It was my pleasure to have you because you have added so much value here. And I hope the people who are watching this podcast will add this all knowledge to their email marketing campaign and overall mindset issues and all. Thank you for coming today. It was really amazing.
Thank you, Underbun. It was lovely meeting you as well. Thank you. Bye.